minutes afterwards to see if more people, because people were coming on slowly. And we didn't want to have to go over everything again. And we want to give people a chance to come on. So we're going to give it just a couple of minutes, even though it's past 6 o'clock. Hello, everybody. So glad to see you, those that are on here.
Hey, Councilwoman, I just want to let you know I'm going to be joining from 2 devices because my speaker is dead on my laptop. It looks like it might kick me off of one, so I'm going to try to rejoin.
Okay. Okay. Great. And I will tell you, since you're spilling the tea, I will tell you, me too. I haven't left. I'm still up at the legislature because I just got out of a committee meeting. So that's where I am viewing from. And that means I'm on my phone. And when I'm on my phone, it's always hard for me to see if hands are up and who's on and that type of thing. So I'm just glad any way you can join.
Awesome.
I think the tape is already running. I think I saw that Rosie already did that. I can't see everybody that's on here. I know usually John Honeysucker may be on here, and sometimes there are people from the mayor's office. So what I'm going to ask before we get started with the real bulk of the meeting, if you are a guest from the from Metro, or if you're from the mayor's office or anything, would you go ahead and say hi to us? So I guess it's just us, District 33. I guess we're just on here. So, Mr. Joshua, it's about 3 minutes after now. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you and let you introduce yourself and tell them where you are and what you're looking to do, and open it up. Know that this will probably be one of many meetings, and know that it is for them to give their input, changes, additions, any kind of stuff like that. So I think we have talked about you being open to hear that and to take that, because they're going to be wanting you to take that back. I'm going to ask, as I always do, people, please talk one at a time. Don't be talking over people if you have questions. At the end of your presentation, Mr. Joshua, they'll have questions or comments or whatever. And so if you will, while you're talking, check the chat room, because lots of times they put questions up there in the chat room as well. And at the end, if you then open it up, you might want to go over all the things in the chat room if you missed any, and then open it up to their conversation. I'm going to mute myself because I'm up here in a building, and I'm going to probably turn my camera off, but I will be right here, and I'll jump in and out if I need to for anything.
Okay, cool.
Okay, as always, I want to say thank you so very much to Ms. Roseanne Hayes for getting everything together for us. So thank you so very much. Okay, I'm going to turn it on. Welcome, everybody.
All right, can everyone hear me? I think I should be good. Awesome. All right, hi guys, my name's Josh McDonald. I'm actually a Nashville native, born and raised mainly on the north side near Old Hickory Boulevard, Davidson Academy area. And today I'm here to talk about potential project that got in your neck of the woods. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. I have a presentation pretty much ready for us to go. And it's gonna basically run down through the whole big bang. So you guys should be able to see, I'm about to go to presenter Actually not. I'm about to go to present view, slideshow, display for start. Awesome. Okay, cool. All right, we're all looking at the same thing. All right, so basically what we've got here is it's a site at 4046 and 4060 Murfreesboro Road. It's about a total of around 10 to 10 and a half acres. It's currently wooded. Topography is not really bad, but there are some little interesting things we'll get into a little bit later. It's currently zoned AR2A. This is really located right about a mile and a half or so up from Waldron Road. So it's really right on the border between Antioch and Laverne. So it's an interesting stretch of road. And then Mount View Elementary is going up the other way towards the north. And then Antioch High School is in JFK aren't that far either. So the request is rezoning from AR2A to SP, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with, specific plan. All right, so basically the whole goal of what we're here for tonight is effectively trying to create a true mixed-use development that's kind of taking some elements of like urban planning and keeping some like suburban or more rustic elements, meshing that together to provide a situation where you have like multiple like housing choice and also allow for different potential more unique retail, shopping, and like light commercial options. So this next slide, it's basically what are the benefits of mixed-use zoning and good planning. And honestly, if everyone works together, you can do a lot of amazing stuff. And you can actually transform environments and you can enhance communities, which I'm sure you all are aware of, and effectively allowing greater opportunities for whether it's younger people, middle-aged, older people in the community, people coming through the community, etc. It's expanding horizons and opportunities and allowing for greater community engagement and connectivity if you do it right. So this is the site. Here are some maps. So to your left is the actual just map off the parcel viewer. It doesn't actually show the topography, but again, the topography really isn't an issue. What you will see though is there is a purple line that goes through, it basically bisects these two properties, and that is actually a planned connector road. So the planning department has, in conjunction with Nashville Next, has a series of road networks that they hope will be improved. So there is a big connector road that would be improved as a part of the plan, which is a lot of the reason why it's going to be a specific plan, because this has to be addressed for planning's purposes. And it also allows us greater opportunity for flexibility as well, and of course, even community input. You'll also notice in Murfreesboro Pike, in this section, there is currently no sewer. And this was actually not discovered until a little while ago. But doing some digging and research, the nearest sewer would require an extension of around 850 to maybe plus or minus 900 feet from the back of the property, as you can see, up the Murfreesboro Road. So in the long run, it's actually a very good thing, because if this was a project to materialize, then that actually means that now sewer access to Murfreesboro Road would be a real thing. And that would definitely benefit current residents and other properties, as time progresses. So basically what we've got here is the pending name of the development's Cooper's Trace. And again, it's mixed-use development going for SP zoning, regulatory, basically permitting uses and standards, mixed-use, non-short-term rental district. For commercial elements, you have mixed retail, restaurants, small office. And then for housing, effectively what we're trying to do is a mix of 3 different housing types. The plan currently is for all the housing to be for purchase. So we have condos, flats, townhomes, or row houses, that means they're attached townhomes, or you've got like tall cottages or basically single family detached, which is effectively going to end up being the detached townhomes in order to make sure we have like maximum square footage in there. And then for an environmental standpoint, there's a lot of things we have to address. We have to improve a public road. So that means actual public water and sewer is more than likely going to have to be extended about up that, what we saw on that map. But I think it's about plus 1,000 feet in that too. We have green improvement plans for bioretention for stormwater. And then, best practice for planting and trees, making sure we're keeping larger native trees that are identified, as well as planting more trees, and that helps with stormwater retention and tree canopies and the like. And of course, we're going to try to maximize common open space. To your right, what you'll see is just effectively some notes regarding the specific plan, which will be regulatory at this point. Given for final site plan, there's going to be a lot of things that have to be dialed in, tailored, and submitted, especially as it comes to the construction of this road. So for the next slide, you can see concept. I think the concept might have actually already been emailed out to certain people. So maybe some of you have seen this or had a chance to look at it, but we can walk through it, pretty much in depth. I hope it's not too blurry, but what you can effectively see is, so along Murfreesboro Pike, the goal is to have a mix of buildings and townhomes. And the townhomes, of course, are townhomes. In the buildings will have, in the front building, the building will have commercial as well as residential. The building on the corner, there may be commercial in that, but we're primarily showing residential, and that's effectively condos and flats. So for the condos and flats, those are going to be about 1 to 2 bedrooms. The interesting thing in doing a lot of market research I found is that condos for purchase are popular amongst both like millennials, like single millennials between 25, 34, but also aging baby boomers too. And baby boomers seem, once they're downsizing, and if they're single or potentially a couple, or they reimagine life or whatever, a lot of them are either looking for like single-story homes with minimal upkeep, or they're happy to live in effectively condominium buildings with amenities. So I found it to be a very interesting find, and I believe that is the target demographic for those. For the townhomes, it'll end up likely being couples or young families, more or less. More than likely, they will not have children when they first move in. As time progresses, that's a different situation. And to the back, towards the rear, the plan is to effectively do the detached homes. Those are larger. So for market rates for the townhomes, somewhere in the 400s. For the market rates for the detached homes, somewhere in the mid 400s to 400s. Oh, and then for the condos, for the 1 and 2 bedrooms, probably in the mid 2s at this point. But again, it's market, so we have to see. So you can see the concept at the left. You can also see a render we had made. This is just an idea of what it could look like. Of course, nothing is finalized. It's just a conceptual of the spirit of what we're going for. So the real, again, goal here is basically trying to build community. So in this new community that we're developing, how do we make sure that we get it right? How do we make sure that it's successful? How do we make sure that we have an eclectic mix of people who are all like just trying to like do better for themselves and live the best lives they can in this little pocket of Antioch? And more importantly, how do we create something great? I mean, that's at the end of the day, that's what we're all here. We want to create something better than what we currently have. And of course, growth always comes with concerns. And I think the reason we're here tonight is because I'm committed to addressing those concerns, getting feedback, because I think that's going to make the project stronger overall. So what you can see is a little bit closer in depth. If you look on to your left at the lower level, you'll see that's where it's ideal for the shops and retail and like small office space that would end up being leased out. Above that is 2nd and 3rd story condos. Those planned are for sale. The commercial component is the only component at this point that is actually planned for leasing out, or that actually could potentially be parceled out and sold out as well. The townhomes to your right, that is 100% for sale product. Going into 3 stories to basically get them around the 1,800 square foot mark, minimum garage parked. As far as the trees being planted, obviously comply with with the Metro government's urban forestry for different streetscape as well as larger trees, and trying to pick the right mix of those as we get deeper off into like landscape planning. We do plan for there to be quite a bit of surface parking, and we have to have surface parking for really the commercial aspect. So we're trying to plan for that, and then also like green space. It's also been brought to our attention on this property. There is a potential sinkhole as well as some other little environmental things, which may not sound all that great, but I think I'm an optimist. So I like to think, well, this can actually be worked with, and we can actually make this a pretty cool feature of the development by just keeping it as it is, and it's open and more park-like and scenic, and it helps with stormwater. So it's little things like that that we'll keep on uncovering as time keeps progressing. But overall, this is the spirit of development. So right here, what I've got is effectively, this is the potential layout of what like the condo or flat would look like. So effectively, like this is a 2-bedroom one, have a little balcony, which you could see reflected on the previous render if you're looking closely. Enough living space for 2 people. This is perfect, obviously, for a single person, a young couple, or middle age, older, etc. It kind of gets the job done. And it's someone's own private space and they own it. And they definitely have to pay into an HOA to keep building maintenance up and grounds and etc. And they're also, it's really cool because of where this is located. They're actually, well, you're a skip from Laverne. Antioch is further north, but then you also have your own potential shops and stuff you can frequent as well. You can get coffee, just go down an elevator and go grab some coffee. Or you can sit, you know, outside and like read a book and there'll be people around. So it also, it's like social inclusion and like making sure people are connected. And I think those are 2 of the key elements of really good development. This is just a potential conceptual of what a townhome layout would be. This is a 1st and 2nd story. This is actually taken from some houses I'm currently building like way closer into town. But this is effectively the spirit for how the townhomes would be laid out. There would be 3 stories, so it's missing a 3rd story, but you can pretty much get the picture. It's just trying to like basically promote open living. These would have stairs for certain, and just basically doing good architectural design work, and making sure it's an attractive product, especially since, you know, it lives or dies on the market. And this is the last slide I have for you guys. It's just community solutions, so thoughts, and I guess that's what we're about to get into. I've been doing a lot of community outreach, trying to learn as much as I can about the area. And the top things I hear about is traffic, stormwater, and environmental, people, demographics, what's the big target demographics, schools. That is actually a big one that I've like learned about over the past couple months and done a lot of like digging into that specific issue. Safety, just general safety. People may be concerned about recklessness or whatever the case may be on roads. And then just overall engagement, you know, making sure we're getting feedback and so since it's an SP, getting feedback and, you know, certain things that we can incorporate, you know, to make the project stronger. So with that, I'm pretty much done. I'm happy to take questions and keep the conversation going.
Okay. If you all, and I don't know, did you look while you were doing that? Did you look in the chat to see if there were any questions as well?
No, because
Yeah.
I'm full screen. So let me go to in show and
If you are talking to me, then we can't hear you. You might have your mute on.
oh, sorry. All right, we're good. Percentage. All right, so there is one from Miss Tawana. Let me expand this so I can just keep seeing. From Miss Tawana, percentage of undisturbed green space, tree space. There is an awful lot of pavement there. Okay, that's a good question. So under this concept currently, this is just a layout concept of how we can work with a potential development given footprints and like requested zoning. As far as the percent, I guess that's a question of your ISR. So your impervious surface ratio. And I'm going to go ahead and say, I know at a bare minimum that needs to be, I guess that would be, or bare maximum, excuse me, would be like at a 70. So that means about 30% is reserved for green space and environmental. We can probably get that down to closer to around like the 60-65% range. So what that means is about like 35%, I would say, is going to end up being green space. And I'm even more confident in that, given the situation that we've learned towards the east of the property, there is, again, a potential natural sinkhole and cave system to work with and preserve. So, so yeah, that's the answer to that. If there is a sinkhole, there is, okay. Yeah, that is definitely something we're going to have to delve into as it gets, you know, deeper off into like geologic and construction and planning. You have put, oh, thank you. Will there be an HOA? Yes, there will be an HOA. What are plans for garbage pickup? I am going to, and it's definitely going to be private garbage pickup. That's going to be a part of the HOA. So it'll be like different dumpster locations. The buildings will be serviced by their own service people. However, the townhomes will have like different dumpster bays where they'll have to like go and dump off their trash. And as they pay in the HOA, then that is privately picked up. GSD or USD? That's a very good question. But given this area, I'm pretty certain it's General Services District. Yes, need a geologist. Please speak to roads, entrances, exits. Why not traffic light? Okay, cool. So yeah, let me speak to this road. This road is actually super important. So the road, there's a planned connector road, and the planning's goal is to get it to connect all the way up to Maxwell Road one day. So it's going to be a 63-foot right of way and improve with a bike lane and some sidewalks. So that actually needs to be updated on the concept because we learned we have to put bike lanes in. And effectively it terminates at the very top of the property to where we can't build past that because then we wouldn't own the property north. So I guess the entrances and exits, this is the main entrance and exit off into the main Murfreesboro thoroughfare. The question about traffic lights, looking at it, I think a traffic light could actually do more harm than good because it would break up the flow of like traffic up and down Murfreesboro Pike, I think pretty badly. But what I do think makes sense, and this is definitely something to work with, we can work with it within the UDO and especially under SP zoning, is effectively like separate turnoff lanes. So effectively having like turning lanes to where, and that's actually makes it safer on everybody, to where people entering into the development. And I also think for people who, especially when you're exiting it off and you have your turning lane, then it's going to be easier for you to like get on to Murfreesboro Pike. But I don't really see the traffic light solving any potential traffic congestion issues at all. I don't see that. But I do see the turning lane solving safety issues, like ramping on and off onto Murfreesboro Pike. I see that for certain. There doesn't appear to be, okay. There doesn't, okay. Who has inspected the total impact? So the same coal situation, that is deeper off in the process. So we have a ways to go before we're going to deal with that. But that's the reason why we have to do the SP with base zoning, which is effectively permitted uses and restrictions, and etc. Because we're going to need maximum flexibility here to address all of these concerns. 35% green space that is in stormwater management. I'm not really understanding the question. So are you asking, you may be asking whether or not this isn't stormwater management in the sense.
I'm asking, it appears on your plan that the vast majority of green space is actually stormwater management systems. And so our question is always, how much is actually community usable green space? And 35% is closing in on the number we like to see, but not if it incorporates the stormwater management devices.
I see. Okay.
Because they're not usable.
Got it. That's true. That is true to an extent, unless you do like different tree canopies and then you change your stormwater plan to basically you're planting more trees to, of course, like soak up more water. So there's ways to be flexible and figure it out. So, okay, I understand your question. All right. So yeah, I mean, the answer to that is it depends. The goal, because this actually helps everybody, especially me as a developer, is to mitigate the amount of actual like pavement. So the amount of actually paved roads. The reason why we're showing the surface parking that we're showing and that's going to be a part of the SP to get the parking requirements and the SETRA tailored to it, is because we needed to show more parking than less, especially given the commercial element. There's also potential for trying to figure out parking structures. I've just been advised that parking, like closed covered parking structures that, they can go up 2 stories and then like it basically saves on actual space. I've been told that sometimes those are not really feasible from a cost perspective, but again, these are things to be worked out. I think not including stormwater. I think a good goal for like actual like open community space that doesn't include the sidewalks or etc., where it's kind of just like a place you can just go and breathe. I think a good goal for that, given the objectives and specificities of this site, is probably somewhere between like around 20 to 25%. I think that would be a good goal. Promise less than more. So I would say around the 20% mark, I think is actually pretty fair. It's something that can be worked with. And I think it's really achievable and doable as well, given the other new environmental constraints that we discovered just recently. Let me see. It sounds like you are counting the NES area. Okay. What is the amount of undisturbed space? So the question about what's undisturbed or not, that is a very good question. It is a very high it sounds like a 100% certainty that the sinkholes area, which I wish I had put a different map up, but I didn't. But the sinkhole area that would be undisturbed. So for certain. Otherwise, there is a good chance that because the whole site is because there's a lot of work that has to be done on the whole site, that it's hard to say what specific, how much would be undisturbed. But I can go ahead and say that in that southeastern corner, just north of where the current townhomes are showed, that will probably end up being undisturbed. So that means there wouldn't be any paving, and then the plan would just be reconfigured with that. Tell us about your success with retail. All right, so here's the interesting. So I guess my personal success with retail, I do not own any commercial retail space. That's not something that I have experience with. I would not be running any of the shops and stores. It would effectively be built out as shell space, and then it would effectively be leased by an interested party who more than likely wouldn't do that unless there were people around to service it. Effectively, the retails and restaurants that I'm imagining. So from a retail perspective, I could see something like a little dog grooming station, or like a dog kennel dog grooming. That's actually we don't have those. We need more of those. And people would use that because there's definitely going to be a lot of dogs in this area. I'm pretty much certain of that. I think also for retail, like specialized shop, maybe like a little small specialized, like multiple, potentially even like a kind of like a little multiple like stand shop, people selling their various like goods and wares. I think that's actually something to catch on. Retail is kind of hard, I would say, especially given in a post-COVID and internet age. For restaurants though, what I could see there effectively is like it's a coffee shop that services the people mainly of this development and visitors, and also maybe like a little small cafe that's annexed to it. So it would be very small retail and restaurants, and I guess the shopping and retail. I could also see effectively where there's space that could be divvied out for co-working. There's actually a good number of younger people who are moving further southeast, and people work from home, but people actually like to have flexible space. They can work from home, or they can like go to a little co-working space, or go to the office, or whatever. So I can see that really taking off. So that's just my general vision for that. We don't.
I'm sorry, that's mine, and I mistyped, but I still see this development as having only one entrance and exit. I really don't care what metro planning envisions in the long term. I
Sure.
care about what is going to be there when it opens. And I think that only having one entrance and one exit is a nightmare.
Okay. I can understand that. I do think though that given the entrance and exit, so it's effectively going to end up being, it's going to be it's 60-foot right away. It's going to end up being one lane and a turning lane. Kind of going with bike lanes running along that and sidewalks. I personally think it's a large enough entrance. I'm actually a fan of not having multiple entrances on and off into Murfreesboro Pike. I don't believe it's large enough for that, to be quite honest. And I actually think designing with like one main entrance actually helps the Murfreesboro Road. I don't think a lot is gained from having a separate, like having two entrances. That's just thinking of it from like a pragmatic standpoint. Though what I do think makes a lot of sense is years down the road that, again, with the plan on the connector road, that it connects up to the northern property, and then that opens that whole thing up. I think that makes sense. Connecting, having an entrance off of a second entrance that doesn't, exit on the Murfreesboro Pike. I think that makes sense. But I don't think having two entrances onto Murfreesboro Pike, really accomplishes much.
And my question then
Okay.
is, where would that second entrance exit be?
So I can go back. I'm gonna scan to see. Let me just scan how. Okay, turn it. Got it. All right, cool. Let me go back and share my screen real fast. So maybe we can see it. Okay, cool. I'm just gonna play it. All right, bingo. All right, so you see it? It's like on the left where my mouse is. There's a road up here.
Yeah, what is that road?
I think that's called Maxwell Road, and Maxwell
And
Road.
do you have any idea how much development is currently planned for Maxwell Road as a 2-lane road without a turning lane?
Well, see, the thing there is now I could be wrong, but the thing there is as the roads are improved, then there is additional right of way that has to be taken up.
When has a road been improved in the last 10 years in this district?
Again, this was all done during Nashville Next, which I might have been in high school at the time. So I don't know. I don't like to give information that I don't know the specific answer to.
Mm-hmm.
But as you can see, as clear as day, they have all of these planned roads with their planned improvements and right
The Metro Planning has done a lot of unplanning. Councilmember Lee, keep in mind that we have a forthcoming meeting about D.R. Horton wanting to build further down on Maxwell Road. Okay. This is the level of unplanning that we are currently getting from the Metro Planning Department.
I understand.
Thank you.
And I think in the meantime, back to my previous point. Again, I don't think there's much that's serviced by having a second like entrance exit on or off in the Murfreesboro Pike. And I could even agree with you, Mr. Price, further, given if the serious constraints that would happen potentially on Maxwell, that it wouldn't really make sense to extend either. And if that's the case, I think that's a beautiful thing to take up with the planning department.
Yeah, and
later on down the road to basically make sure that the next door neighbors will, hey, by the way,
I agree. There's no point in having a second entrance exit onto Murfreesboro Pike, but we do need to consider the future of emergency services.
Yes, no, you're absolutely right there, and so that's why I know for designing. Let me, in fact, I can go back to this. Nope, this way. I know for designing, especially, it was done very well, especially where the detached homes are. But the drive, and it's going to be blurry, but the drive aisles are about 24 feet wide, specifically to make sure fire trucks and et cetera can get down, and they have aerial access and et cetera. Of course, going up and down this main road, they're effectively going to have space to do that. But again, of course, this concept's going to end up, getting a little altered, change. There might actually be some loss of density too. It just depends on what we're going to really uncover from an environmental standpoint to the far southeast of us, and what we can do. So yes, Mr. Price.
I will share with you, because I think can't remember now if I said this to you when we were actually meeting, because I am never a fan of only one way in and one way out as well. And I understand that the design and they're not wanting to go back to Murfreesboro Road, but we're in an area where when we had all of the tornadoes come through and flooding and things, there were trees that fell across roads and had to have somebody to come in and cut them. So if you only have one way in, one out, and when we're talking about emergency, we're not talking about just fire trucks coming in, but we're talking about things like that where people actually cannot get out if there's only one way. So I wanted to put that in the room as well, because usually when I'm talking to somebody, I always say, I like to see another way in or out.
I do remember that. And I appreciate that. And yes, I think that what you just said makes a lot of sense if there's like an emergency and there's trees and etc. But and again, I do believe it could be redesigned in order to have, affect like a horseshoe situation or like two ways on and off of Murfreesboro Pike. But for just for the practicality of the development, it seemed like we were still able to accomplish the same thing with one exit. It's like as long as effectively like the main drag is not ever blocked, effectively like the first 200 feet from Murfreesboro Pike onto development is never blocked, or there's not any barricades or anything. Then when you get deeper off in it, there actually are its various cuts. Like there are its various like ways, to like maneuver and get around the actual site. So that was another thing I tried to take into account too. But if that's a major concern, and we think that could actually do more help than harm, then I am not against trying to look at a second entrance.
I think you should look at that, and that's another reason why we have these meetings, because sometimes developments make sense and look good, but then when you find out things that have happened or what the community is saying or some things that they may know about that you didn't think of, that's a plus to it. So yeah, I would like for you to look at that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. It is in the
I
notes.
didn't know if any other questions came up in the chat or anybody that had a question.
Let me try to see. How did this work? I guess I need to stop sharing. Oh, let me go to the chat. I can still share and go to the chat. Okay. There's some questions about. There's a light just up the road at Old Hickory Boulevard. Okay, basically saying that don't do the light. But okay, she just. Let me scroll. Oh wow, this chat's something. Oh, okay, I saw this. So like, design for efficiency. Okay, it's just a comment. Thank you, Mr. Stern. That's actually probably some good information there. Will you address turning lanes allow other traffic to stay at high rates of speed? Traffic light answered. Okay. Oh, thank you, Miss Tawana. Will you address these? We don't. Okay. I don't know if we can upload documents into WebEx. Maybe someone else knows the answer to that. Oh, got it. How will traffic get to Murfreesboro Pike heading toward Laverne? So that might be a question of how will traffic be impacted, or how will they turn onto Murfreesboro Pike to get to Laverne?
The question, Joshua, is if I'm coming out of this development and trying to get across Murfreesboro Pike heading north to Nashville, how am I going to get across that?
Well, if you're going north, your situation's easy because you're going to make a right. But if you're going,
I understand that, but if I'm turning left,
right,
if I'm wanting to turn left, during rush hour?
I could see that being difficult, but I do believe most people are good Samaritans, and someone will let you over. But I'm kind of saying that, but that is the way it kind of works. So I would say because of that, yeah, that might end up being somewhat of a challenge if you're going back to Laverne during rush hour when people are going home. that to Laverne. So I think the traffic flows would actually work in favor, and that would be a one-off, if that makes sense. Because, well, people who, if you're leaving development to go to Laverne in rush hour, chances are you maybe not, and that affects potentially the workers who might work in some of the commercial, they need to go home or whatever. But I think the traffic flows will work to where that creates not like a majority problem and more of like a minority inconvenience. And you know that, hey, you know, we've all been there. We got to tip the car a little bit forward. One person will stop, okay, and then the other one, then we get in the turning lane, and then we can, you know, go about our business. So I think that's what will end up happening in practicality. Yeah, but others may have other comments for that. Okay. Turning. Okay. Let me see if there's other questions. I don't see. I don't have to live there, but those left turns are going. Okay. I mean, yeah. It's just. Again, back to my thing. I think it's a minority. It's going to end up being a minority issue, but you know, we'll live with it. Because again, we've all been there trying to go left when there's traffic, and we somehow make it to where we got to go, right? Okay, there's a turn lane to go into to try and merge. Okay, yeah. Thank you, Ms. Tanya, for telling us about that. I don't see any other questions, but I'm happy to answer any or, you know, talk a little bit more. I guess either Miss Lee or Miss Hayes, you can give out my contact info and feel free to email me with anything, or I can put it in the chat if that's better.
Yeah, I was getting ready to say, put it in the chat. And
Cool.
also you had asked about, I think somebody asked about downloading some information. Just email that to Ms. Hayes, and she will send it out to everybody that is on here. She can send it out. In fact, she probably just sends it out to everybody on my District 33 database.
Okay. Yeah, I know I sent two things. Basically the main slide with the concept and the render. I know I sent that out. But I'm happy to send whatever other materials that you deem necessary or people want to see.
Okay.
So
Whatever you have that you think that you want to show, because a lot of the folks in this area are very up to date on what to look for and reading the plans and all that kind of stuff, very knowledgeable. And so they will want that information to look at ahead of time. And so then they can have their questions or whatever before our next community meeting.
got it. Okay. Because yeah, I know for the next community meeting, I think that the main things to like zero in are what I want to hear more about are like this specific uses and specific restrictions. I know building materials is a big one. That's a pretty popular one. And I know we've spoken about certain commercial uses being restricted, whether that's like pawn shops, which do count under retail, or like effectively like cash advance and money lenders and etc.
Yes, we talked about that.
Right. So I know those are all things that would need to be written into the SP for certain, as well as like other, you know, standards and things. So, okay, cool. So I think for the second meeting, we'll definitely have like updated, up to dates on how things are going. And then so zeroing in on those things to be written into the bill, if it comes to, you know, the floor.
And let me
Can I ask a question really quickly?
Yeah, sure.
In looking at the plans, are there altogether 84 units for housing, and then the bottom unit of that one level is the retail? But is there altogether 84 units for housing?
Oh, no. So no, the total. So under this concept, which this is about to change, the total, if off the top of my head, the total like actual like unit count, so total dwelling units is about 140. I think it's around 100, like 140, and then it's like a planned 12,000 square feet lower level for commercial retail. So that's what we're doing. So we've got like a good number of units like condos, which are buildings. It's basically maximum two sets of buildings. And then we have townhomes and then of course the detached homes. So across all of that, I believe that's like 140. I think I'm like mid 140s if I'm not mistaken. I could try to count it on the, in fact, I can just go and do that. You just count it and see, but I think it's around like 140 something total.
That should require a traffic study.
Right, I was going to say the same thing.
Are you aware of that?
That has not been brought up or relayed to me from the planning department.
Well, that's not a surprise to me, but it will require a traffic study.
Okay.
Now, Councilmember Lee, I'm not sure if that traffic study, since Murfreesboro Pike is actually a state route, how that traffic study gets conducted.
I am
Whether
not
it's-
sure. I am not sure either, but I know he is at the very beginning of all of this. So
Yeah.
a lot of what hadn't been talked to him about is because he hadn't gone in there. We talked about having to bring it to the community to hear what you all had to say first. So I'm sure that they will look at that. And I don't know who has to request that, but I'm almost sure that it'll be done in that, be requested in that area. And if not, we can request that it be done by the developers.
Okay.
We have a little under 15 minutes left, and I know we're used to seeing a little more specifics, and he already knows that he is coming to another meeting, and this was really, really kind of his first stuff of meeting with you all instead of taking it through the whole process. So now is a good time if you have to put something else in the chat room, or if you want to go ahead and ask of him, that we go ahead and get that out now.
Oh, so by the way, so there's been preliminary, so there has been discussion with the planning department. So it is going through works at planning as SP, and working with them on that as far as, you know, what the specific things they want to see. So I know that that's its own thing, and then that's why it's coordinating with the community. So I know at the next meeting we'll have a more detail. It'll be more of like a finalized set SP, and then we can figure out the nitty gritty. As far as the traffic study goes, I guess we'll see that as TBD. And that's pretty much all that I have that hasn't already been, you know, spoken or talked about. And I really appreciate everybody, you know, showing up and asking questions and, you know, giving your input. And we'll see how good we can make this thing.
Excuse me, Josh.
Go ahead.
There's a couple of questions in the chat room that you may want to take a look at.
Okay, thanks. Any consideration for some what's this? Okay, they already asked. I think it's not. Oh, it's definitely at 184. I think it's at 140. Any consideration for some? Yeah. So I did. Oh, I think she might have joined a little bit late, Miss Gooch. But yeah. So for senior housing, like I said, I was doing a lot of research, and actually the condos are going to serve pretty well for potential elderly homes. Well, not elderly homes, but, you know, like older people who are downsizing and they take their money from their house. It's like they want to buy a little place for themselves in a convenient area. It's pretty popular amongst younger and older alike. It's either they do that or they go way far out and get a little single family home in a retirement plus community. So I think that's how senior housing could actually be addressed. So I think it's really providing product for that. Potentially, and older people get to live with younger people. Everyone gets to live together, so it makes everyone feel young. So I actually think that's a pretty smart way to look at it. About pricing, okay, yeah, she basically. Thank you, Ms. Cat, for filling that in. And this morning. Oh, well, thank you, Ms. Cat. Yeah, definitely no trucking. Yeah, okay, cool. I think let me make sure it's not. That's all I see so far in the chat.
Okay. Any other questions? Well, we actually can kind of close this up about 10 minutes early, if there are no other big questions. We do know Joshua will be back and bring more information, and you'll set that meeting up through Ms. Hayes, and we'll see when we can get that when we're ready. And
Yes.
want to thank everybody. Hope everybody is staying safe out there. Thank everybody who took time. I know some folks had two different things going on at the same time. So thank you for taking time to come out. Thank you for your presentation, Joshua. And Miss Rosie, thank you so very, very much for everything you do always. Okay, I will say bye.
All right. Take care, everybody, and probably see you all in some months at this point. And everything takes a little bit longer than you want.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
All right. Have a good night.
All right. Take care, everybody. Thank you. Bye.